Hello, everyone. My name is Asif, and I work as a Director Technology Salesforce at Royal Cyber. I welcome you all on behalf of Royal Cyber in today's webinar. And so, as part of the agenda for today's session, we are going to start with a bit of the introduction of Royal Cyber, and then we are going to talk about some of the very I would say more talked about topics or the relevant trends in Salesforce B2C domain, Salesforce B2C commerce domain in today's time, um, which actually everybody or every customer who's using Salesforce B2C commerce would like to know, or would like to talk about, would like to get more insight on. So that's the area which we are going to touch. And second, we are going to talk about the overall project management or the end-to-end project delivery process which we follow within Royal Cyber when it comes to the project delivery. Uh, Thirdly, we are going to share one of the case studies of the work which we have done uh, for one of our existing Salesforce B2C commerce customers. And in the end, then we are going to take your questions. So, as part of today's discussion, I have one panel with me where we have three important people. I would say key contributors. I would say major, contributors or the who are the backbone of Salesforce practice. And I would like them to introduce themselves first, and then we can take this conversation forward. So, Natasha, please.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Natasha. I work as the delivery manager here at Royal Cyber, and I oversee delivery of e-commerce project implementations in the digital commerce space.
Hi, everyone. Gilani, and it's been more than 2 years that I'm connected with Royal Cyber. So I'm working as a Salesforce business analyst, and right now I'm working with a top client, which we'll discuss in more detail in the coming questions and case studies. Over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Manangu and I'm working as Salesforce Commerce Cloud architect at Royal Cyber. And I've been working as an architect for past 8 years. Yeah, and that's it about me.
All right, thank you guys. So let's start with a bit of the introduction on Royal Cyber. So we started, back in 2002. It's been almost 20 years. We are in this e-commerce industry or in this digital transformation world. We have a global presence. We have around 11 offices in 9 different countries. Total of 1,500 plus employees strength. We provide end-to-end services in multiple ways or in different models, which includes complete onshore, offshore, and a hybrid model. These are some of our existing customers. And the best part is, some of these customers have been with us even for more than last 6 years or 7 years. The customer retention, ratio or the rate which we have is pretty high. It's over 95%. All right. So specific to Salesforce, we are connected or associated with Salesforce in 2 different ways. One is we are Salesforce silver level consulting partners when it comes to B2C commerce or Salesforce CRM services. Then on the other side, we are Salesforce link partners. And when I say link partners, means we are eligible to create solutions, cartridges, connectors, plugins on top of existing Salesforce e-commerce platform. Okay, apart from B2C commerce, we also provide services on other sides of Salesforce products, which include Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, which all comes under the umbrella of Salesforce CRM. All right, so let's talk a bit about how this Salesforce B2C commerce, which it is called nowadays, how it actually got evolved. So back in 2009, it was introduced as demandware, by one of the companies called Demandware with the version Sitegenesis 1.0. And then there was the version which came in 2009 was actually based on pipelines, one of the frameworks. Then back in 2014, this pipeline version got enhanced in a controller version. I would say based on MVC architecture in 2014. Then in 2017, there was another version came, and this Demandware was also acquired at the same time by Salesforce, somewhere around in 2016. And then this MFRA version came, where the architecture for both web was already there, but the mobile architecture got introduced. It was not again a mobile first approach, but again, I mean, the support or the code for mobile piece was introduced as part of this release in 2017, which was called as MFRA. Then in 2018, this major version was introduced by Salesforce called Salesforce Reference Architecture, which they introduced as the mobile first architecture, was purely based on from the UI side Bootstrap, and the backend was completely on MVC architecture. Then in 2021, they introduced, this PWA Kit, or I would say a packaged product for Salesforce Headless Commerce, which we are going to talk about in few of our, next slides. All right, so let's now talk about some of the important aspects or questions which are being more frequently asked by Salesforce customer in today's time. So right now there's a debate going on among Salesforce B2C customers or the companies who are using Salesforce B2C commerce, whether they should migrate to from Sitegenesis to SFRA, or directly from Sitegenesis to Headless. Or even some companies are also talking about whether they should move from SFRA to Headless Commerce right now, whether it is the right time or not. So we are going to just have this discussion with our panel. Before we do that, so just for your information, right now, even more than half of the Salesforce customers, they are still on Sitegenesis, the version which was introduced back in 2009. And some of the customers are using a mix of the version which was introduced in 2009 and then 2014, means the mix of pipelines and the controller framework. So I'll ask Usman. Usman, you please tell me what is your viewpoint on why a customer right now look for, especially the ones who are on Sitegenesis, they should look for migrating from Sitegenesis to SFRA. Why it is important?
So, Asif, if the customers about Sitegenesis, you have worked with Sitegenesis as well. You know very well that it is not mobile first. It does not have a mobile first. Right? So the customers have been frequently asking their developers, okay, to develop a separate site. I have seen many customers, they're still using a separate site for mobile itself, right? So they're hosting a separate site for mobile and they are hosting a separate site for a regular web code, right? So it is not, mobile first friendly at all, right? Whereas the SFRA architecture is totally mobile first friendly. It's responsive. It works along all the viewports and devices. So I think this is the very first reason that why the customer should be moving to SFRA, right? They don't have to pay extra developers to prepare a separate site or UI experience for their site website, right? So this will be the first thing that they need to consider. And then, of course, as Salesforce has moved to, the SFRA architecture, right? So any new changes, releases, they are only supported for SFRA, right? So if client comes across a problem that needs support from Salesforce, it's stopped now, right? So they will be not that much of a help because they're more focused on SFRA architecture rather than supporting the old Sitegenesis.
Right. So Usman, yeah, that's a very important point. That's a very important point, and this is something which we just come across with one of the customers who are still on Sitegenesis, and they were using one of the payment cartridges called Braintree, and we were supposed to upgrade their Braintree recent release on their Sitegenesis architecture, and we come across this limitation where Braintree PayPal they said very clearly that the new release which we have now published, that new release is only available for SFRA architecture. It's not available for Sitegenesis. So now we are doing some custom code development to have this new release backward compatible with the Sitegenesis. And again, end of the day, it's more customization, means you are dumping more custom code on top of your existing platform, plus more effort, more cost, right? Yes, man.
All right. So yeah, I totally agree. Ashit. And another point was, for example, if you remember in Sitegenesis, we had a pipeline-based architecture, right? Not every developer is, familiar with that pipeline-based proprietary architecture, and this is the very reason the developers, still run away from that architecture, right? The SFRA they have introduced, JavaScript-based controller architecture instead of pipeline, and the very base benefit that you get from it is it's very easy, manage the code versioning now. Earlier, the pipelines, the code versioning was, it was a nightmare because pipelines are not properly monitored in your code versioning software. So developers had a hard time to do the code versioning as well as debugging on the pipeline. It was very slow. So it is very developer friendly. The SFRA is more developer friendly now.
Okay.
So when we are saying that developer friendly, there's another thing that came here is that SFRA now use the JavaScript based framework instead of their closed source ECMAScript, right? So this means that there are very few people which know the demand-based script-based framework, right? Now, if they are using the JavaScript-based framework, it means there is a large developer database that you have, and you can hire more developers, right? At low cost. So this is another benefit of having an SFRA-based framework.
So Usman, how do you see when it comes to from the buyer's point of view, from the shopper's point of view? Let's say, for example, if a customer or if a shopper or a buyer who's buying on a website which is on Sitegenesis, so his or her user buying experience on the storefront on Sitegenesis and his buying experience on the other side on the storefront which is on SFRA. How do you see that from the performance perspective, from the user experience, buyer experience perspective?
So Sitegenesis did not have that much great of a buying experience when it comes to the responsiveness, right? It had problems on different reports. On mobile, it was totally different. On web, it was a different story, right? When it comes to SFRA, it has already been, the Kickstarter application that Salesforce provided, it is already up to the standard. Accessibility standards have been built into it, right? So for people with accessibility needs, they can easily buy on that. This was not the case with the Sitegenesis side, right? And other than this, if you talk about the performance, the controllers are very much efficient than the pipeline itself, right? Earlier, they had to, process all that, file and render the responses, but now it's just the controller down. So performance-wise, Salesforce reference architecture is much better.
Sure. So it means, for example, if any customer who is facing performance issues on their existing Sitegenesis storefront, if they migrate to SFRA, there is a guaranteed performance improvement once they migrate their existing architecture to SFRA.
And again, if you talk about the code-based side, right? In Sitegenesis, all those features that the merchant requires or does not require, they were built into that single source code. But in SFRA, it's a modular-based approach, right? You have plugins available for different features. Yeah. It is very easy to turn those plugins off, uninstall them, install them. It gives you a little small, code base.
Sure.
So that is another, benefit of having SFRA.
Sure.
And then, of course, the test case coverage is much better in SFRA-based frameworks. We have much more better test reports over there as compared to Sitegenesis. And the DevOps release process is much easier now because in SFRA they introduced the CI/CD process in the pipelines.
Yeah.
That were introduced very first time with the SFRA.
Yeah.
So that is another benefit that the merchants are going to get, so they can directly jump into the CI/CD process instead of having that rain or waterfall method.
Yeah.
Having those releases.
Yeah.
Now they can frequently do releases and things like that.
And even they don't have to manage any external DevOps process. It's all there as part of the platform, right?
Yes, out of the box, Salesforce provide a Bitbucket pipelines, or you can use CI circle, but the code is there. All you need to is to configure them and start with.
Sure. Okay, Usman. Now next, another topic, which everybody or every customer who's using Salesforce platform, who has Salesforce as a B2C commerce, as a e-commerce platform, is talking about is the headless commerce. Now, I remember when headless commerce was introduced, when Mobify storefront was introduced, it was not a complete storefront when Salesforce launched it, right?
Yeah.
there were no APIs available, right, from the Mobify storefront point of view. When it comes to checkout, right, one has to write their own custom APIs.
Yes.
But now, in past year, I would say this packaged product which Salesforce has launched with the support of B2C commerce APIs, with the name Headless Commerce, along with the PWA Kit and managed runtime. How do you see that product as a headless commerce product which is introduced by Salesforce?
I think it has evolved a lot, right? So since its beginning, it has evolved a lot. It's much mature now, right? So merchants can start using it, right? It's not that immature as it was past 1 year back, right? So it's in a very better position now. But yeah, I think it's good to have that application.
Okay, Usman, what is your take on PWA or PWA Kit? How do you see why PWA? Why PWA Kit has been packaged as part of the headless commerce product? What is the advantage do you see?
So the main advantage I see is it's a separate UI-based framework. It's a separate React application, right? So the headless application is totally a decoupled application. When it was Sitegenesis, it was totally a monolithic architecture, right? Everything was tightly coupled. When it came to SFRA, we just talked about that it was a modular approach, right? Now, when it comes to headless, right, it's a very loosely coupled architecture. The UI or the UI application can be separately developed, hosted, and deployed. And the base or the backend system, which is totally dependent on the APIs now, right? It can be monitored or developed on separately. So the main advantage I see is that it is easier to deploy or make changes to the front end, get frequent deployments without having to interact with the backend architecture, right? So the delivery time is less. And if you talk about the PWA especially, the progressive web application, they support caching at their place, right? So if you are installing it as a desktop application on your mobile or on your tablets or on your desktop devices, they support caching. So even if you are offline, up to some extent, you should be able to browse or navigate the storefront which you have cached already. So the performance is another one.
Right. So all these advantages comes with PWA Kit, right? That's why Salesforce introduced PWA as part of the headless.
Exactly.
Now this another feature which has been introduced as part of this package, which was again not there before. It's called as managed runtime, right? Now Salesforce, we know that as a platform, they have at the top layer, they have applications, services, which include Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud. Then at the bottom, they have this infrastructure, right? And then the mid, they have these hosting applications, let's say Heroku, App Exchange, and now this another one which has been added as part of the stack, managed runtime. How do you see this managed runtime?
So when you say you have a PWA, right, you need to deploy it somewhere, right? You need an ECDN over there. You need some firewalls where it is hosted. So it's an architecture or it's a runtime where you can easily host them, monitor your application, see how the APIs are performing. So this managed runtime is a part of this headless implementation that Salesforce provide. So the one part is the progressive web app. The second part is this managed runtime, which allows you to host your applications, right? And then monitor those applications, monitor the API performance and things like that. And the last part is, of course, the API itself.
Right. And I think end of the day, let's say, for example, if this managed runtime is not part of the headless commerce product, then I need any third party to host my application, right? And then I have to pay for it, right? Either it's a Google Cloud or AWS or even Heroku, which is part of the Salesforce platform. End of the day, I have to pay the cost and I have to manage the infrastructure, right? But here, if I am deploying this application on managed runtime, it means I don't have to worry about any infrastructure or the resource issues, right? Which is all managed by Salesforce itself.
Yeah. Because it's being managed by Salesforce, so they will take care that it's compatible with their application as well. So there are many aspects to it, right? So as it is coming from Salesforce, obviously you'll get all the benefits.
Correct. Excellent. Okay. Now, I mean, why somebody moves to headless? I mean, that's very important and debating question, which even customer have been asking us, our existing customer and new prospects, right? So why somebody moves to headless? Let's say if somebody is not on Sitegenesis, but they are already on SFRA, why they should think about moving to headless?
So I think the first point would be how frequent you are doing the changes to your application, right? For example, if I only need to change the UI changes, right? It's just the UI, right, that you need to change or any front-end changes. Headless has a very big potential here, right? So you don't have to talk to your IT infrastructure team or your API teams or your backend team, right? Okay, I am making these changes. Sit down, talk to me, and we'll then deploy. So this is not necessary. Anyone with a very less knowledge of even front end, they can make changes and this can be deployed and tested or something, right? Without any communication or anything. So it's very easier to deploy the changes.
So its dependency is very low or very less on the back end, right?
Exactly.
The front end changes can go to quickly on the production.
It can be very more frequent, right? And you are not involving all your backend teams to get together to decide if this can go or not, right?
Yeah.
And even if you make a mistake, right, you can revert back your UI changes because API has not been compromised or the backend is not compromised.
Yeah.
So it is easier to locate a fault.
Yeah.
It is easier to locate and fix a fault if there's a fault in your portal.
Sure. Okay, now again, I mean, we talked about why headless, but now who can pick headless commerce? I mean, who can I would say who can be the best contenders to use headless commerce? What do you think? I mean, is it something which everybody should go for, or do you think there are few who can survive with, or who can survive the cost and everything involved when it comes to headless commerce?
So I think the first factor would be that if you are going for a headless, you will need to have a very strong in-house team, which are familiar with the backend and the front end perspective both, right? So if you want to make a change to backend separately, that's a totally a different skill set, right? And if you want to make changes to front end, that's a totally different skill set. So if you are going that path or headless path, you need to have a strong in-house team or maybe a strong SI partner who can help you with that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the second thing is the budget, right?
Yeah.
You will have to keep separate teams for the front end, back end, and of course, people have to pay the cost of the licenses that are associated with Headless.
Yeah.
So I think that will be another factor. And for example, if you are a customer which has websites in different international markets, right? For example, if for Canada, I want to have a totally different UI experience, right? I can have that as a separate PWA app deployed, right?
Yeah.
Backend experience remains the same.
Yeah.
And for maybe America, I want to have a totally different way experience, right?
Yeah.
So that will the customer will be looking for, the headless.
Sure.
So I think these are the main points that we need to consider when we're selecting between a headless architecture application and between SFRA.
So headless comes with a lot of advantages, but the major thing is there's a good amount of cost involved to manage your headless architecture once it goes live, because you need a separate streams of teams, separate skill set required for your front end and back end, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, one thing which I would like to add here, because couple of years back when Headless was introduced by Salesforce as Mobify architecture, there was no PWA Kit, there was no managed runtime, but now Headless is a complete product or a package which is being launched by Salesforce. So let's say if any customer who don't want to move towards any third-party CMS vendors, who don't want to have a third-party front-end application, let's say they don't want to go to any eSpirit or any other third-party front-end servicing provider CMS systems, they can still be on Headless by using the platform or the packaged products which Salesforce has given in the form of a PWA Kit, React out of the box storefront, and the managed runtime. Usman, very quickly, how do you see the comparison when it comes to SFRA and Headless?
Regarding
features, when it comes from login to checkout, how do you see the, let's say, which one has more complete, enhancements and cartridges available?
So I think SFRA is more complete in terms of enhancements and packages because it's a little older now, it's a little mature now. As for example, if you talk about personalization, page designer, UL redirection, right? SFRA has all those features built in as a plugin or at the framework level, right? And of course, as Headless is still evolving. There are some features that are missing, but they can be built, and a custom build can be done in order to do that, right? So on need-to-do basis, that can be achieved as well. But I see that SFRA is mature in terms of feature and completion for feature.
Okay.
But if you talk about the modern framework, right? Headless is the more modern.
Yeah.
So you are definitely going towards that framework in the future.
Sure. Okay. Now, there's one important, another component which Salesforce has introduced in the form of Lightning Order Management System. So we'll quickly cover this because this is also something which Salesforce is pitching to almost all of the existing and new customers as part of the package when it comes to selling Salesforce B2C commerce licensing. Uh, so Lightning Order Management System now has been packaged as part of the Salesforce platform or Salesforce offerings. Uh, there is an out of the box integration available for this Lightning Order Management System with Salesforce Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Commerce Cloud. So it means, let's say if you have Salesforce Sales, Service, and Commerce Cloud, you can have a out of the box seamless integration available with Lightning Order Management System with no code but just the clicks. Uh, Plus, the advantage of using Lightning Order Management System would be, let's say, if you are using Sales Cloud and you have the order objects, quote objects, you have customers objects, all these out of the box standard objects, which we call in Salesforce terms, are also available, are a shared objects when it comes to Lightning Order Management System. So you don't have to replicate any kind of data between these systems, or you don't have to move the data in terms of attributes or objects from Sales Cloud or Service Cloud to Lightning Order Management System. Okay, so now let's talk about bit on the project management side with Natasha. So Natasha, I would like to know how in Royal Cyber, specifically in Royal Cyber, how the project management work, how the hierarchy is when it comes to, let's say, if we have a project where we have to do the migration or the implementation, or let's say a managed support services project. So how the roles are being assigned when it comes to these kind of big projects?
Yes, Asif. Immaterial of the type of the project, whether it is a migration or managed services, in the project management structure that we have adopted in Royal Cyber, we have three key personas. We have an account manager, we have a delivery manager, and a project manager who's working with the development team or the support team on the ground. So let me start with the roles and responsibilities of what a project manager typically takes care of. He's a process implementer in this ecosystem, so that the complete ensuring of the quality of the work product or the support system that we are putting in place for a customer is adhered to by the project manager along with his development team. So he focuses on all the 5 process groups that we have, starting from initiation, then you plan, you execute, you monitor the health of the project, and eventually you work towards the closure if that is the case of the project scope.
Sure.
He focuses on knowledge areas, and there are very key knowledge areas that we have our project managers spend a lot of time and focus on. That's typically on scope, obviously a little bit on the costing. We have then focus on the schedule, which is key for the customer as a KPI. On resources, because he's on the ground with the development team. So their skill needs, additional resourcing needs on the project, and at the end of the day, the quality that the customer is seeking. So that will be the knowledge areas that the project manager is focusing on today in our projects. In addition to these knowledge areas, 2 other key management areas are risk as well as stakeholder management.
Sure.
Stakeholder management in broader aspect is both towards the customer as well as being a project manager in a composite organization as us. He works with me as a delivery manager and also with the account manager, who's a third persona in this ecosystem.
Sure.
So primarily with all these responsibilities that the project manager has today, I or any delivery manager who is there on a project aid the project manager in the project initiation mainly.
Sure.
So to set up a team, identify the right resources with the assistance of functional groups that we have, which I will broadly speak on, and then also to foresee and assess the proper risks in the project, given we are focusing on all the knowledge areas that I spoke about, right? We are keeping into account the costing, the schedule, the quality. So these parameters will also drive the risk management, which is part of a delivery manager's responsibility. And the delivery manager also aids in monitoring the project health. So in regular cadences, a delivery manager and a project manager work together periodically, assess if the project is on time or on schedule and is adhering to all the quality needs. And if any intervention is needed, then the delivery manager comes into play.
Sure.
Delivery manager, in other regards, is a primal person there in terms of client management. He's the first level of escalation point beyond the project manager, and that is where more responsibilities come in to just jump in and start mitigating when an escalation occurs. An account manager on the overall angle spends a lot of time on account farming, upselling services and products that we as an organization have, and also in the client management space. The account manager is also a key person in our ecosystem who works with techno-functional groups. Our techno-functional groups are practices, the one that you are actively part of, like Salesforce. We also have other technology practices that our account managers work with. Our functional groups such as UI, UX, our business analysis group, and our quality assurance group.
Sure.
So this is where our account management responsibilities are. So in terms of our execution structure, as I spoke about, the account management and delivery management have a heart of the project, which lies solely with technology as well as with functional. And I don't want to also rule out the fact that human resources is a core component of our project management strategy as well. So they aid in sourcing the right resource for a project. The learning and management team helps in upskilling and taking care of skill needs on the project. And obviously, human resources, they aid in performance management. So that is where our focus areas are.
Sure. So, Natasha, one question which I have, based on your experience, how important it is for a project manager to, when he or she is working on grounds with the resources, and at the same time for the delivery manager as well, one-on-one with the customer, how important it is to have a product knowledge. I mean, if let's say somebody comes with zero product knowledge, how important it is to have a product knowledge, and if not, then how quickly one can go and learn that product knowledge, being on the project.
So the product knowledge is I would say imperative, especially when we are handling large scale projects. We are supported by the technology practices here with relevant trainings. We not only source project managers, we source product managers as well,
Yes.
so that they fit into the ecosystem. Our business analysts that we onboard on projects aid largely in this space, and technical project management is also an area that we are not ruling out. So it's not just that our project managers come with process knowledge. We are focusing on bringing product knowledge also to the table.
Sure. And on the ground, when you're working on with the project managers, when project managers are working with the customers, communicating with the resources, what kind of tools and technologies which we mostly use when it comes to project management?
Since most of our projects now have fully, or I should say, largely migrated towards an agile-based approach, we have our project product managers, our business analysts, and our development team diligently follow agile processes and all tools and processes that complement the agile delivery here. So in terms of agile, I can focus on key areas where our processes and tools come into play. So from our planning, which is a key milestone that we first take care of when starting a project, we start with preparing a project charter. So that's a process, and relevant tools. It could be your Microsoft project plan, to smart sheets, and anything that you can spin up. But it is imperative to have a proper project charter in place. And when we are assembling a team, the resource utilization methodologies using budget your budget trackers are all done during the project planning. And coming into project execution, our development team are expected to be well versed with any kind of project management or task management tools that are widely deployed in the market. Jira being one example. For design and documentation, we enforce utilization of Confluence, which is equally a complementary product there. Your SCM tools your infrastructure and access specific knowledge and processes also come into play equally.
Sure.
Yeah. Communication management is a key area where our processes are expected to be very effective. And for these, we adopt your WSRs, your status reports, your monthly progress reports. We in case there is an impact to the plan, you're publishing your updated plans to the customers. We, as delivery managers and account managers who are active part of the project ecosystem, we do quarterly business reviews also with the customer. I want to touch upon quality management because that's a very core knowledge area. And for that, we adopt code compliance tools, your SonarQube, SonarLint, that typically checks for code quality. Code reviews is a mandatory process that we ask the peers and tech leads on the project to adopt. And also, we as an organization have developed testing methodologies. We have our own product that we are widely leveraging on most of our projects, such as GoTest Pro and TIF, that is aiding in automation testing so that our quality is properly monitored and adhered to. Change management, though not in all cases, but speaking of agile, it is also becoming a very core knowledge area. We have a proper change control procedure that we are adopting in our processes, and we have a change log that we are tracking and publishing to the customer.
Sure. Sure. I mean, that was really good, Natasha. Natasha, one question still I have for maybe for new customers, or the prospects which we have or which who connect with us. Because every project obviously is not a smooth project. Most of the times we come across hiccups, like ups and downs. So how do we, when let's say, for example, and those ups and downs can be in terms of resource shortage, in terms of skill set, in terms of timelines, right? How do we mitigate those challenges which comes during the project, when the project is already in the middle and you have some tough timelines? And I would say if you can quote any one example.
In a project that Usman and I are co-working, there is a lot of dependency on a composite team structure. The composite team structure is our own team. Then we have the customers a team as well as another vendor who has an equal share in provisioning a dependency for us to proceed with our activities. I believe our processes around communication management and risk management are very key here. Being and the monitoring strategies that we adopt on the project, that as a delivery manager, I work with my technical project manager or my account manager, and they in turn work with the development team to bring the transparency of the project health and where we are blocked and the regular statuses that get published to the customer. That is very essential. And I think I want to also take this forum to say that all of our teams, and specifically this project, have been doing that on a daily cadence, talking about blockers and talking about project health and calling out dependencies that is keeping customer updated.
Yeah.
And in terms of mitigation, we work with the customer on the ground, suggesting in what ways the customer can get benefited and they see themselves out of this problem.
Excellent. So that means that if we are giving complete visibility to the customer, even in terms of risks, issues, concerns,
correct.
I mean, they don't go on the other direction. They still are aligned with us and to work hand in hand with us to mitigate or to fix or address those issues.
Right. I think agile in a lot of this aspect is aiding compared to our traditional waterfall, where you wait for a work product to take shape and then you give the view to the customer as to what the work product status is looking like. But today we are adopting Scrum ceremonies where you give that bi-weekly view to the customer, even in terms of your sprint reviews, sprint demos.
Sure.
And obviously these daily Scrum calls, your touch bases that you have with the customer are avenues to bring this transparency and the visibility to them on where the dependency is and how we are blocked and how we can see ourselves out of it.
Sure. Excellent. Okay. I think now we'll quickly move towards Aisha. Aisha, now all yours from here. So you tell us about the work which we have done for this customer, what this customer is, what kind of line of business they are in, and your role, and plus overall the delivery or the work which we have done with this customer since we have started.
So thank you, Lala. So uh, I'm here to specifically talk about a customer which is a big name in the fashion and clothing industry in US. They're headed in California, and I've been working in my whole Royal Cyber development teams working with them since last year. And last year there were a couple of major projects apart from the minor regular projects that come up as enhancements or advancements into the existing features or bringing new features into their websites or their user experience or user interfaces. So what we've been doing currently today, I'll speak more about a particular case study, which is the implementation of a loyalty rewards and referral program that Royal Cyber team excellently, I would say. I would really appreciate our work in terms of implementation, in terms of the timeline, in terms of the quality of delivery, quality data, and the results specifically. So definitely we've been doing other works like major highlights I would give regarding the multiple payment gateways, which comes up as a Klarna integration, and then upgrade of Afterpay integration, and then bringing up a couple of enhancements in the site overall when it comes to the PLP filtering and sorting experiences. Other than that, we do have a lot of what I can say, the search insights where we have implemented the search spring as well, where there are a lot of personalized recommendations, where we've implemented the intelligent suggestions and tracking. So there's a huge, what I can say, list of enhancements going on with this current True Religion client. Specifically, when it comes to the loyalty, then I would say that it took almost 3 to 4 months, starting from the planning, the project shaping, coming up with the business use cases, coming up with the highlights and the avenues of implementation, coming up with the technical challenges that we came across. So the major challenge that we came up was that, so basically there was one advantage and one disadvantage. So the advantage was that we were having Yotpo, a chosen vendor by the client. We were having that Yotpo vendor when it comes to the reviews and rating. So they already had the customer feed, they already had the order feed, they already had the product feed. So it saved us a lot of time. So that was the biggest advantage of choosing Yotpo. And then when it came to the disadvantage part, so it was that the site is based on Sitegenesis. So as we spoke earlier with Usman and you as well, that there are definitely a couple of restrictions and limitations when it comes to Sitegenesis in comparison with the SFRA.
Yeah.
So Yotpo was offering us a generic integration and Sitegenesis, particularly SFCC integration. So there was a little bit of areas there where these technical restrictions came up, and we were like in the middle of nowhere when we were thinking about the solution that the Royal Cyber team should move on. Then there was an idea that we should use the Yotpo modules and page builders along with SFCC content assets, and we called it a hybrid integration. So overall, it solved our problem. It took us some more weeks, but ultimately, all is well that ends well. So it is working perfectly fine with Sitegenesis so far.
Okay.
So it basically involves the team in terms of development, testing, and all the accomplishment of the project. And other than that, when we have implemented all the user journeys, so we are taking care of not only the logged in users, the guest users, and the opted in users. So when we are giving them an option to be a loyal customer or the loyal shopper, so we are defining a tier-based structure. So whenever the user or the shopper is buying from us the first time, whenever they're opting in, so they are falling into a particular tier. As soon as they go on purchasing with the client, so they become a more loyal, a more tier 2 or VIP customer, and they do have a lot of other things in the list of the incentives that we are giving them. And then as soon as they are purchasing more and more, they're getting more and more.
Sure.
Similarly, the way it is bringing benefit to the customers, it is bringing even more benefits to the client, the merchants as well, by attaining new customers, gaining like attaining their existing customers, gaining new customers, and regaining the lost customers.
Sure.
Because in a market competitive environment after the pandemic, there is a lot of trend shifted towards the online shopping.
Yes.
And when it comes to the competitions, so True Religion's competitions were already having its loyalty project in hand, up and running. So there was a race, there was a competition between all of them. So now when we see and when we compare the success statistics between the True Religion and its competitors, so we see ourselves at a very eminent position. Like we are having a repurchase rate really high, we are having the better AOVs, we are really having increased conversions. And apart from the these like what I would say success statistics, we do have really good feedback from the users when it comes to the benefits they're getting, like when it comes to free shipping, when it comes to fast deliveries, because the loyal or the opted-in members, they have to pay lesser amount than rest of the regular customers. So we are building a ownership relationship with the customers, like owning your customers, owning their shopping history with yourselves, and owning their data in a way that they buy from you again and again, and then you can improve your branding as a
Sure. So Aisha, I mean, end of the day, what you're saying is with all these features, Yotpo and Klarna and then Spring Search, whatever we implemented for this customer, they can see the ROI, right? On the efforts which we have done, right? They've seen the growth in their business, right? Now, one thing which I would like also to talk about is your role, the role of a Salesforce B2C commerce business analyst. Normally, that role is not talked about more. How do you see, it fills the gap when it comes to the communication from the project manager with the customer and then also to the developers as well. What is the role or the key aspects of this role when you go on ground and work with the customer one on one?
That's a very good question, I would say, because I would think that the role of the business analyst in these projects is like a bridge, whose role is to carry the information, process it, evaluate it, and then model it and translate the requirements of the client into implementations. So you have to translate whatever the functional requirements are, whatever the technical requirements are, and then you translate into a language which your team, your development team understands.
Sure.
And then back to when it's time to take the answers back to the client. So you're translating the technical language into a non-technical functional language back to the client in terms of a business communication that they can understand well. So it's basically a technical and a functional aspects for evaluation going hand in hand with the client and your functionality. So not only it's about the documentation, it's about managing the whole process. It's about creating and evaluating all the business use cases, because you can't leave any business use case as it is of a less importance, because ultimately you're going to have all these business use cases live when you're going live with the production side. So I think it is an important role, and really Royal Cyber team, it's also giving me chances to improve myself when it comes to our daily not daily, weekly or bi-weekly business analysis calls, and when we are managing the content. So we are actually revising each and everything, like, okay, I did that use case earlier with one client and now it's coming up with another client. So it's empowering our knowledge as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank
You, Aisha. So thank you very much, Natasha, Aisha, and Osman, for your time today and to be the part of this session. And for all the attendees, before we close this, so we, as I said at the start of this session, that we are silver level consulting partners, we are linked partners. So Salesforce also manages customer satisfaction rating on their own public portal, which is App Exchange. And over there, if you go and look for Royal Cyber profile, you will see that we have 4.8 out of 5 customer satisfaction rating, which is given by Salesforce based on the reviews and the answers given by our customers on our deliverables. So this is right now the rating which we have, and plus all the attendees and the registrants of this session, we are going to reach out to you, and we are offering 2 weeks free discovery phase. So any pain points, any challenges, anything which you talk about, which you want to talk with us, which is relevant to Salesforce. Either it is B2C commerce, B2B, cloud craze, sales cloud, service cloud, CRM, anything which you want to talk about and need an advice on, we are there to help you. So our salespeople will be reaching out to you to schedule for this 2 weeks discovery phase, and it comes as completely free. Um, all right, now we are going to go and take some of the questions from you. Please, see, put your questions on the chat, and I'll take those questions one by one.